I'm sorry, the sound has been off the whole time and I did not realize it. I apologize for that. So you all missed the first part of that moderation, in which that was on my fault on my end. So I just will continue with the moderation moving forward. Yahweh is spirit, and in this pure spirit state, he is incomprehensible and inscrutable. He's the ultimate source, substance, limits, and bounds of everything. We have Yahweh in his pure spirit state symbolized on this chart as a cloud. Yahweh is not a cloud. He merely chose a cloud to symbolize himself, because a cloud has no particular or descriptive shape and form. And we have drawn the cloud all around the edges of this chart to show you that everything on the chart is within the cloud. And in like manner, everything in the universe abides within the pure spirit state of Yahweh. Yahweh, knowing that man could not perceive of him in this pure spirit state, took on shape and took on form right within himself as Elohim. This is the word or son, a super incorporeal being. That means having the shape and form of a man without flesh and blood. This form could only be seen in divine visions and understood in divine revelations. Later on, this self same spirit manifested himself in a physical body and walked the earth plane as Yahshua the Messiah, whom the world calls Jesus Christ. Now, there's only one name given unto salvation, and we must know that name. The simple yet intelligent question we should ask ourselves is, what was the name of the Savior during the time that he walked the earth plane? A further understanding of this name and title may be had by reading the preface of the Holy Name Bible. Also, we teach by the divine pattern of the universe. It is called the divine pattern because it is Yahweh's pattern. After Yahweh led the children of Israel out of Egypt, he called Moses atop Mount Sinai and showed him this tabernacle pattern in the vision. And Yahweh instructed Moses to build one exactly like it in the wilderness of Sinai. This pattern consists of a most holy place, a holy place, and a court roundabout. These three compartments make up the one tabernacle pattern. Throughout this discourse, we show proof how that everything in the universe is made and operates according to the structure and function of this threefold tabernacle pattern, and that absolutely nothing escapes the pattern. And our primary constitutional aims and objectives are as follows: one, to help you find to help you find and know Yahweh our Elohim as he really is and actually exists. Two, to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity in Yahshua the Messiah, without distinction of race, nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color. Three, to investigate the unexplained spirit law or so called law of nature and the powers latent in man. Four, to encourage and promote the study of the scriptures, comparative religions, psychology, philosophy, and modern, practical, and occult science. Five, to extirpate current superstition, skepticism, and ignorance. Six, to learn, know, and understand the operation of Yahweh's eternal purpose through the dispensations and ages. Seven, to discern and avoid being deceived by Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons operating the mystery of iniquity on earth through the dispensations of time. Eight, to earnestly contend for the common salvation and faith which was once delivered unto the sons or children of Yahweh. And nine, to make known that Yahweh from the beginning ordained there is no other name given among men whereby man can be saved, save in the name of Yahshua the Messiah. And 10, to inherit eternal life now in the kingdom of Yahshua the Messiah with the hope of immortal glorification in the new earth state. Our watchword is peace. Our slogan is speak the truth. And our theme is Matthew 24:14 through 15. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever reads, let him understand. These are our research helps that you can take a screenshot of. We will also show this towards the end of our discourse. And a great scholar once said, if a man made law cannot be traced to a divine source, then not only should its effectiveness be questioned, even more, its intent should be suspected. The divine laws, as revealed to Moses and taught by Yahshua, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, must be discerned spiritually and put into practice in our daily lives. Wise decisions based on obedience to the laws of the Bible, so abundant in mercy and justice, bring about the constant harmony and peace which can be ours. And to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. The law, Genesis through Deuteronomy, the testimony, Joshua through Malachi, and witnesses, Matthew through Revelations. And at this time, let us bow our hearts and minds in prayer. And our scripture lesson will not be a read from a book that is in the canonized versions of the Bible. It will be read from the book of Jasher, chapter 8. So if you do have the book of Jasher handy, you can follow along there. If not, it is a free download in your app store. So you can download the book of Jasher from your app store freely. Just go to your app store, type in book of Jasher, and it should come up. So let us all bow our hearts and minds. Heavenly Father, Yahweh Elohim, we come before you today, first of all, in thanks. We thank you for everything that you have done, that you will do, and that you are doing currently. We ask that we be um, in alignment with your purpose, pattern, and plan of salvation. We ask that we know that none of yours is lost or will be lost. We do continue to ask that you just open up our hearts and our minds to receive the blessings that you just continue to pour out. Just open up the hearts and minds of everyone who you have called by your name. And in the name of Yahshua the Messiah, we thank you. Hallelujah. So I'll be reading from the book of Jasher, chapter 8. Okay, I can see better this way. And it was in the night that Abram was born, that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah. And they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up the four stars from the four sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. And the sages understood this matter, and they knew its importance. And they said to each other, this only betokens the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever. And he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning All these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, Behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king, and it has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, Why have you concealed this matter from me? And then we shall all suffer death. Therefore, now let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear. And they did so. And they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground. And they said, May the king live. May the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of thy host. And we yesternight came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when the servants went out from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven, and we saw a great star coming from the east. And that same star ran with great speed and swallowed up four great stars from the four sides of the heavens. And thy servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and were greatly terrified. And we made our judgment upon the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to Terah, who will grow up and multiply greatly and become powerful and kill all the kings of the earth and inherit all their lands, he and his seed forever. And now, our Lord and King, behold, we have truly acquainted thee with what we have seen concerning this child. If it seem good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increased against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. And the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight. And he went and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was yesternight born to you, and after this manner was observed in the heavens at his birth. And now, therefore, give me the child, that we may slay him before his evil springs up against us. And I will give you, and I will give thee for his value, thy house full of silver and gold. And Terah answered the king and said to him, My lord and king, I have heard thy words, and thy servant shall do all that this king desireth. But my lord and king, I will tell thee what happened to me yesternight, that I may see what advice the king will give his servant. And then I will answer the king upon what he has just spoken. And the king said, Speak. And Terah said to the king, Aon, son of Mored, came to me yesternight, saying, Give unto me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave you, and I will give thee silver and gold and straw and provender for its value. And I said unto him, Wait till I see the king concerning thy words. And behold, whatever the king saith, that will I do. And now, my lord and king, behold, I have made this thing known to you, and the advice which my king will give unto his servant that I will follow. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled against, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the light of a fool. And the king answered Terah, and he said to him, Art thou so silly, ignorant, or deficient in understanding to do this thing? To give thy beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Art thou so short of silver and gold that thou should do this thing, because you cannot obtain straw and provender to feed thy horse? And what is silver and gold to you, or straw and provender, that thou should give away that fine horse which I gave you, like which there is none to be had on the whole earth? And the king left off speaking. And Terah answered the king, saying, Like unto this has the king spoken to his servant. I beseech thee, my lord and king, what is this which you did say unto me, saying, Give thy son that we may slay him, and I will give you silver and gold for his value? What shall I do with silver and gold after the death of my son? Who shall inherit me? Surely then, at my death, the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. And when the king heard the words of Terah and the parable which he brought concerning the king, it grieved him greatly, and he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him. And Terah saw that the anger of the king was kindled against him, and he answered the king, saying, All that I have is in the king's power. Whatever the king desired to do to his servant, that let him do. Yea, even my son. He is in the king's power without value in exchange. He and his two brothers that are older than he. And the king said to Terah, No, but I will purchase the younger son for a price. And Terah answered the king, saying, I beseech thee, my lord and king, to let the servant speak a word before thee, and let the king hear the word of his servant. And Terah said, Let my king give me 3 days' time till I consider this matter within myself, and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree with this. And the king hearkened to Terah. And he did so, and gave him 3 days' time. And Terah went out from the king's presence, and he came home to his family, and spoke to them all the words of the king. And the people were greatly afraid. And it was in the third day that the king sent to Terah, saying, Send me thy son for a price, as I spoke to you. And should you not do this, I will send and slay all that you have in your house, so that you shall not even have a dog remaining. And Terah hastened, as the thing was urgent from the king. And he took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had borne to him that day. And Terah brought the child to the king and received value for him. And Yahweh was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abram's death. And the king took the child from Terah, and with all his might dashed his head to the ground, for he thought it had been Abram. And this was concealed from him that day, and it was forgotten by the king, as it was the will of providence not to suffer Abram's death. And Terah took Abram, his son, secretly, together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them their provision monthly. And Yahweh was with Abram in the cave, and he grew up, and Abram was in the cave 10 years. And the king and his princes, soothsayers and sages, thought that the king had killed Abram. That was the book of Jasher, chapter 9. Now, you could probably see why the book of Jasher did not make it to the canonized version of the Bible, because you can't whitewash it. It's impossible to whitewash this book. It's too much in it. It wouldn't. They they just took it out, along with many others. However, you can't understand the history of the creation, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahshua the Messiah, the 12 brothers, or the 12 patriarchs, um, the meaning of the 12 brothers and the 12 um, disciples and the 12 apostles. Like, you can't understand the meaning of any of it without at least the book of Jasher and the book of Enoch. There are many more books. Um, there are 104 free audio books that you can listen to that's on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching from my YouTube channel, welcome. You can go to my playlist, and you'll see there in the playlist it'll say the it'll say the Ethiopian Bible, the Apocrypha, and the Lost Books. There's 104. There are many more books. A lot of them are hidden in the Vatican because it contains a lot of truth. Yahweh said those that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. But if there's an omission, it's not the full truth. So, to understand anything about the purpose of Yahshua the Messiah and his death, um, resurrection, ascension, and outpouring of the Holy Spirit that is available for all mankind. That's one of our aims, right? To um, the universal brotherhood, right, of humanity. in Yahshua the Messiah without distinction of race, nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color. The story of the heavens tell the story of the Bible because Yahweh and all of his everything knows the depths of what that adversary or evil will do to keep the wisdom of Yahweh from his people. That's the reason why in the book he said, if anybody takes away from this book, I'm taking away from your life. Anybody adds to it, I'm going to add the plagues of Egypt. Like it's in there. As a matter of fact, let's get it. It's in Revelations. Um and then anybody that did so, like say for instance, we're all using the King James version of the Bible, right? And then when people can't understand it, they make another version and another version and another version and another version. And it just keeps getting watered down and watered down and watered down and watered down. Because we have to understand that from the beginning, mankind spoke one language. There was one tongue, one language, and it was Hebrew. It was Hebrew. And that's a creative language, right? Yahweh spoke in the creation. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with Yahweh, and the word was Yahweh, right? He spoke in creation, right? And that was the only language. It was Yahweh that confused the tongues or brought in many more languages at the Tower of Babel because of what mankind thought to do, trying to build a tower all the way up into the heavens so that number one, they could escape a flood if the earth had flooded again, and two, to try to go fight Yahweh. And somebody would read the King James version of the Bible, and it's like, that's nowhere in the Bible. That's not biblical. That's not scriptural. It's not in the book that you were given because King James took it out. And that is why he died the death that he died. He died a horrible death because he changed the names. Like, have you ever noticed or realized that it's a whole lot of names with starts with a J in the book, but then in the moderation, we start out saying that the letter J was the last letter to be added in the English alphabet, placed in the 10th place. Is the last letter to be added, but placed as the 10th letter. It's still not in the Hebrew alphabet to this day. It didn't exist at all when Yahshua was walking the earth plane. How was his name Jesus? It wasn't. That's just the elementary thing. And this is not arguing about names. Is not, right? However, we if we say there's power in the name and his name is important and all of that, then what was his name during the time that he walked the earth plane? His name's the way that they name with meaning and purpose. Like this child, when they named them after like a characteristic or something like that. But then their belief was that the names that they named their children, that name would carry that their power and purpose with that name. And his name means Yah is salvation. So that's one. But we all know that now, right? Um, but that's the question. Every name, not every name, but the names that is a lot of names with a J in it in the Bible, right? And the reason for that is King James in his vanity. In his vanity, I'm the king. I'm looking at this book. They've all felt like that book was so powerful because it was this people's history. They always knew who the people were, who Yahweh's people were. Always. They had them in captivity, but they always knew who they were. And they would take their things, their instruments. They took their books, their history. Um and we're going to get into the tarot and astrology in the scriptures. So it's what we would call today, as you would hear it, where so-called black people have a culture, and it's something that we've been doing forever, that the world don't know that we do. This is our culture. And then when bits and pieces of our culture come into the world by contact with um other, cultures and groups and ethnicities, that they just marvel at it and adopt. And then we call it culture appropriation. Why is that the same thing that they were doing back then? There's nothing new under the sun. That which was then is now, right? Like a lot of things has happened that way. It is still happening. So we have our books and history and all of that. And then it's out there in culture. And there's a reason for it. Like somehow people get mad about it. Um, but when you understand that Yahweh said that his people will lead, and his people will lead, his people will be the light of the world, his people will teach the other nations. And then you have to think about it. If his people are teaching the other nations, you teach by example. You teach by what you do. And other nations saw the Hebrew people, children of Israel, doing or practicing the things that Yahweh taught them. And then they're doing it every day. And then everybody else is following suit. And of course, they claim it as their own. We see that. We still see it happening. Um, so you had the book, thought to be powerful or whatever, always has to put it in law because it's a law book. The Torah is a law book. And then in his vanity, hey, their names have Y's. Like every name in the scriptures that you see with a J, it was a Y. Well, why is that? Because the tetragrammaton, Yahweh, Yahweh, right? Sounds like breath. Let everything that has breath praise the name of Yahweh, right? So their names, because again, children of Israel, it wasn't Israel, it was Yisrael with a Y, right? Yisrael, meaning having power with Elohim, not without him, but with him. Yisrael. Um, the book of Joshua is really the book of Yahshua. Um, Yohanan, that's John. Um, all of the names that started with a J was a Y. And that king changed the names, and any he had his scribes and writers when they rewrote the Bible, his version, that's why it's called the King James version. When they rewrote the Bible, hey, take out all those Y's and make them J's. And the death that King James died, it was Yahweh messed up his digestive system really bad. He had, what is it called? Dysentery, something. It's the infection. It's an infection of the digestive system. And it's like your bowels just burn. That's how he died. It was really along with some other stuff, but yeah. Um, I mean, I'm not laughing at it. I'm just saying it kind of makes sense when, he did what he did. And then you look at the the um here the pattern, man made in the image and likeness by the pattern of man made in the image of Elohim by the pattern of the tabernacle. And you see this officiating, the low priest. It could be a high priest or a low priest that did this, but usually the office of the low priest um did the sacrifices down here. This correlates with the digestive system, right? This altar of sin sacrifice. The altar of sin sacrifice correlates with the digestive system and the colon. And he suffered that. Let's see. I Okay, I see you in the chat. I don't see your question though. Or did you put it yet? Or you were just asking if I can answer your question. Answer a question that you are about to ask. And do you mind putting your name there? Says Nugs, but if you don't mind me calling you Nugs, that's fine. but but it just says Nugs. Um So yeah, I can see your chat there. So whenever you type in the question, I can answer it. Okay. All right, great. Great. Wonderful. All right. So whenever you're ready, I'm ready. So I'll just continue until I see your question there. So, and please let it be reasonable. It's people that do crazy things in chats. And so I'm gonna say this right now. I'm not saying that that's what you're gonna do. I'm just saying that, sometimes you got the trolls that come and I'm not gonna respond. I'm just saying that right now. I'm not responding to trolling. Um, so yes, this altar of sin sacrifice here, where they sacrifice the animals for their sins and things like that, it correlates with the digestive system in you got the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and then of course, when the food digests and everything and it comes out in there's waste, right, that comes out. So metaphysically, this correlates. Altar of sin sacrifice, that was a great sin that king did, King James. So guess what he suffered? Right here. Colon just burning. It's called start with a D. Dysentery something. Like, look that up, and to find out, like what that is, what happens with it. And he suffered with it for a while. So yeah, Yahweh didn't even let the man die immediately. Like, that would have been mercy. There was not that was no mercy there. Um, let's see. Okay. So you said you're open-minded to a lot of beliefs, but at a crossroads in life, not many people answer with truth. Can you tell me your faith and who is your God? Okay. So my faith means trust, right? So who do I put my trust or believe, or what do I believe in, or who do I believe in? Well, I believe in the creator that created the heavens and the earth, the new heavens and the new earth, and all that exist. And in my deep dive in research throughout the years, because I wanted to know him by name, what I found, if you want the name, Yahweh, YHWH, that's the tetragrammaton. So in the beginning, usually when I start this discourse, um, I go about to, start with the call of moderation, so that everybody knows up front that when I go into this discourse, this is what I'll be using, right? The original and true name and title. You see the Hebrew, letters here, and what that is in English, because I speak the English language, right? Um, Yahshua, that name means Yahweh is salvation. Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh is a name, but if you take out the vowels, the A and the E, because that was placed there to make the name pronounceable. This is the tetragrammaton, which is YHWH, right? Elohim is a title. It's a plural title. When he said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness," that's plural, right? So Elohim is plural. Also the titles were Eloah, El Shaddai. Um, it was El something because that means, like God, um, the Father. So this is who I believe in. This is my belief, right? Um, I don't um okay. So everything in the universe is patterned after Yahweh Elohim, right? And he showed us himself just by the creation, right? So let's say you have a everybody has a father and a mother. I mean, unless, asexual, and usually that's a woman that had, given birth without coming into contact with a man. But usually in that when that happens, because she only has not Y, only have X chromosomes. If she doesn't come in contact with the man, but just has a baby because she's asexual, then she has a girl because that's the only chromosomes that she has. So the miracle when we talk about Yahshua the Messiah is that okay, she didn't have any contact sexually, well, sexual copulation with the man, but she had a son, right? Like that was the miracle. Because otherwise, yes, she could have had a baby without a man, but it would have been a girl. But everybody has a father and a mother, usually, right? So a father and a mother is a us. That's two people that comes together as one. Romans 1:19 and 20 says that which may be known of Yahweh is manifested in them. Who is them? Us. Because he has shown it unto them. Who is them? Us. He showed us something invisible or spiritual by things that are made. So we can visibly see and understand something about Yahweh just through how man and woman, that is two people, that's plural, coming together to have a child. So Yahweh is masculine and feminine. I didn't say male and female, I said masculine and feminine. Yahweh is masculine and feminine and one embodiment. Yahweh is the only self sufficient, independent that there is. Self sufficient within himself because Yah, the masculine portion of the name, Way, the feminine portion of the name, us, right? Masculine, feminine in one embodiment. And then the creation sprung forth from Yahweh being one. So then he made the man. Now, in the man was the woman. So then, now that's the division of the sexes, right? The word sex means to divide. So Yahweh divided the man and the woman, and that's why he said these two shall be one, because when they come, because they are one. When they come together, offspring. But the man can have offspring by himself, and the woman usually cannot have offspring by herself. They have to come together as one to have offspring because that shows Yahweh for us to understand, right? For us to understand that. So Yahweh, masculine and feminine in one embodiment, Elohim being plural, right? When Yahweh gave man and woman or Adam and Eve dominion, he gave them dominion of the earth, right? To dominate. So them, that's a plural. So Yahweh Elohim, us, that's a plural. So he's is one, right? Joshua said the prayer in John chapter 17. Let them be one as we are one. It's all one. So that's the reason why we even have marriage, in order to understand something about Yahweh Elohim again. Like a man and a woman coming together as one to create children, create a life together, like all of that. When they're not one, there's division, there's war, there's destruction. It's the destruction of the marriage, it's the destruction of everything that they built, it's the destruction of both of them. But if they're one, because let them be one as we are one, everything just shows forth Yahweh and his purpose. And he's just waiting for us to get the message. Like I'm here and everything is here. And I want you all to really understand everything as is. Um, but there's the adversity, that twist. That's the reason why that like the serpent, right? So the serpent in the garden, serpent means to twist. So everything that Yahweh created, that he made, that's good, because he said it after he said it, that it's good. And then next thing you know, there's a twisting. Twisted. So everything that Yahweh made is good, but then that adverse or opposing or adversary twists it. Twisted in the minds, twisted in our minds to where we don't see it clearly as it is, when it's so simple and plain, like right in front of our faces. And then there's this going back and forth and the worrying and the debating and all of that type of stuff. And you know i I used to do that as a novice back in the day. um but that was a part of the learning process and the maturing. And I don't do that now. Like I don't do it now, I don't do it anymore. Because it's there. It said the ministers of Yahweh are not to strive, right? We don't get into any type of senseless debates or anything like that. We point to where it is, explain it in simplicity. And you know the way our education system has trained our brains throughout schooling is hardwired for complexity. And that's not that's not of Yahweh. It's simplicity. It is like ABC 1 2 3, and it's so simple that we can miss it. And so that's the so we talk about plural, and who is the us, and all of that. Right here, we right back here. Yahweh, Yahweh, masculine, feminine, and one embodiment, and everything is created that way. You have a positive and negative. Negative does not mean bad. Negative means it's like this cup. It's void, but then I pour something in it, it's filled. So it's void, it's waiting for something to fill it. And that positive, so that would be negative, like a void, nothing in it. And then the positive is to, like, I poured some tea in here. Nice field, right? So masculine projects or gives, feminine receives, receptive, right? It's receptive. Negative. Feminine is negative. Masculine, positive. Positive projects, feminine, negative receives. And that's just what this is. Yahweh, Yahweh, masculine and feminine in one embodiment, and created everything that's here, right? And so Yahweh's family is, and according to the scriptures, he said, whosoever will believe in me and be immersed, that means to go deep. Just like with the, and we start and we we go over this in moderation. When Yahweh Elohim, um we actually just read this in the the beginning of it in the book of Jasher. But after the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahshua the Messiah, and there's the outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon all mankind, all mankind. And he say, whosoever believes in me and is immersed shall have everlasting life. So who is his family? Those who follow his commands, those who do his commandments. What is his commandments? Where are they? Where is it written? It's written in scripture. However, it was written with pen and paper and ink, but they wasn't following it because it wasn't in them. It wasn't in their hearts to do. So in Jeremiah 31 and 31 through 37, he said that he would create in them a new heart. That was the prophecy, because uh to the law and to the prophets, if they speak not according to this word, is because there's no light in them. So uh Jeremiah, one of the prophets, 31, promise of a new covenant. Behold, the day is come, saith Yahweh, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. And it shall come to pass that, like as I have watched over them, to pluck up and to break down, and to throw down and to destroy, and to afflict, so I will watch over them to build and to plant, saith Yahweh. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten a sour grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But every one shall die for his own iniquity. Every man that eats the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith Yahweh. Well, after what days? After the days of the death, burial, resurrection, ascension of Yahshua the Messiah and the pouring out of the Holy Spirit. So after those days, saith Yahweh, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. It's right there. So who is his family? Those who follow his commandments or do or practice his commandments because it's in their hearts to do. We do what's in our heart. That's the reason why we say things like, "Oh, I know that by heart." You know, we we listen repetitively to a song over and over and over and over again. And next thing you know, we singing it, we know it by heart. We probably haven't heard it for 50, 11,000 years. And then next thing you know, the song plays and we just repeating the words just like that. Well, why is that? Because of repetition. So if we are listening to our Heavenly Father and we read his word, he said, whosoever reads, right? Whosoever reads, let him understand. Whosoever reads, and then you practice what you read or you practice what you learn. What do we do in school all day? What did we do in school all day? What were we being taught? What are our children doing in school all day? What are they being taught? They're there longer than they're at home. I did the math, right? They are there more than they're at home. What are they learning? Whatever it is that they're learning repetitiously, that's what they're gonna do because that's what's in their heart. That's been placed on their heart memory. So what do? We do if we're doing our Father's will and his word just without even thinking about it, then we're his family, right? We're his family. Um, let's see. We were made in his image and after his likeness. That's what the scriptures say, right? I'm made in my physical mother and father. I might look like more like one more than the other, but for the most part, I know children that they might look like their father but act like their mother, or look like their mother and act like their father, look like a mixture of both their father and mother, and their habits are a mixture of them. So we're made in their image and likeness because we look like them. That's why a father can look at a child that's like, okay, this my child. And then some of them they question and like, this joker don't look nothing like me. They better look like somebody in my family because we're made in the image and likeness of our parents. So the same thing with Yahweh. Well, what does Yahweh look like? He's invisible. Well, we should look like his characteristics. What are his characteristics? Wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, love, beauty, justice, foundation, power, and strength. These are his 9 divine attributes. And we should look like this. And when these 9 divine attributes are in operation, in practice every day in our lives, then guess what we have? The fruit of the Spirit. He said, You shall know them by their fruits. Okay, well, what is the fruit? What is the fruit of the Spirit? Because, and I love fruit, I'm a fruit eater. I I eat fruit at least all day. Like, I am a fruit eater. Um, Galatians 5 and start at like 22. Um, No, as a matter of fact, we not gonna just nope, we're not gonna just start at 22 because you need to see the difference between both. Um, and I don't do like all that stuff there. Nope. Nope, I don't go in there, right? Because after we leave here, it ain't gonna even matter if it's round or flat. What is the we came he put us here on this planet Earth that we getting into for a purpose. And any of those things that folks is striving about, that doesn't have anything to do with the salvation of your soul. And your soul is your mind. Soul, mind, psyche is synonymous. And distractions, like striving about with stuff like that, find out, look at it, make a conclusion for yourself about it, and then continue to stay focused on what your purpose is. What's your purpose? I mean, if your purpose is to find out if it's flat or if it's round or globe or sphere, then that's your purpose. I'm not here to argue about with anybody. I'm not even here to argue about the purpose of the devil. Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, Satan and his demons. If that's what they was purposed to do, it's like that's cool. Stay away from me. Because John chapter 17 said Joshua prayed and said, keep them from the evil. He said, I don't pray that you take them out of the world. I pray that you keep them from the evil. Keep me from the evil, please. Um, so Galatians chapter 5, and you shall know them. Well, Galatians chapter 5 doesn't say you should know them by their fruits. Joshua did say you shall know them by their fruits. But then, okay, what is the fruit then? What is the fruit? Uh there's a work of the flesh, which is fruit, and then there's the fruit of the spirit. For the flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary to one another. So Galatians chapter 5, um, we're gonna start at 13. For brethren, you have been called unto liberty or freedom, right? You have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty or your freedom for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Hold on a sec. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, take heed that you not be consumed of one another. This I say then: walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you cannot do the things that you would. So you would carry out your purpose for why Yahweh even have you here in the first place. But then those fallen angels that you mentioned, there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, and they prevailed not, but were cast down unto the earth. Woe unto you, inhabitants of the earth, because the adversary has come down unto you. Where are we? We're on the earth. Who are the inhabitants of the earth? Us. Who's come to cause war with us? The adversary and his fallen angels, because they believed in him. They believed that he was the creator of the heavens and the earth, the heavens and the new earth and all that existed. And then they found out that he was not. So he left his first estate. There was a war in heaven. And if you look in the heavens and its constellations and everything, you'll see all kinds of the story is there in the heavens. And they were cast down into the earth. Why are we having all of this people, well, why would God allow babies to be killed and this is that and the other? He not allowing it. Apparently we are. Who do we believe? How did it start in the garden? It was peace and paradise. They could eat freely of the trees, all of that. But it was one thing he told them: don't eat of this tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Good and evil can't go together. And is a word that conjuncts. It's a conjunction word. So if you try to conjunct or join good, evil, those are two opposites. They always will go at opposite ends. They don't do the same things. That causes confusion of mind, which is the soul, which is the psyche. But it deceived her and made her think that she wasn't, not think, believe, made her believe that she wasn't what she already was. He said, oh, you'll be wise. She was already wise. And that's the behavior of that adverse spirit and those that follow after that spirit. Right? And then ate that knowledge, that branch, because you have branches of knowledge, right? That was a tree. What a tree has branches. She ate the branch, that branch of knowledge, and it's been downhill. It was downhill. And Yahshua the Messiah purpose was to bring it back up, bring us back up to spiritual. We could say spiritual consciousness. We could say spiritual awareness. We could, whatever words we choose, right? To bring us back up to spiritual awareness. Okay, well, what is spirit? What is spiritual? That's usually things that you cannot see. You cannot see emotions, you see them expressed. You cannot see the mental faculties, you see them expressed. Right? You mentioned intuition. Intuition. Let's take them two words. That's one. In, that's inside. Tuition, that's something when you go to school, you pay it. Right? Intuition, that means I'm paying attention to what's within. But who is within me doing the teaching? That's the question. Intuition. Anybody could be intuitive. I could go within and if that adverse spirit is in me, that's what I'm listening to. And then this is the behavior that will ensue if that's what I'm doing, right? You're going to see the fruit. What is it? You should know them by their fruits. So if you be led of the spirit, you are not under the law, because the law was made to point out sin or ignorance. Well, what is ignorance? Root word ignore. Who are you ignoring? The commandments of Yahweh. When they ignored the commandments of Yahweh, there was death and destruction. When they heeded to the commandments of Yahweh, there's prosperity and abundance and all of the good things or whatever. They were commanded by Yahweh to come over here and take back their land, which correlates to the most holy place, which is the head cavity, which is the mind, right? Um, they were commanded to go over here and do what? Drive out the evil of the land, those that were on the land committing all types of evil, and Yahweh commanded them to kill them. How about that one? Not all of them, but there were a few nations that he was like, take them totally out. So they had to follow the command. And if they didn't, because sometimes they didn't, if they didn't follow that command, they were the ones that got messed up. And then Joshua's over there like, we lost the battle. Why did we lose? Yahweh was like, ain't no time for you to be on your knees praying now. Get up and see somebody in your camp did something that I said don't do. Or they didn't do something that I said to do. Find out who that is. Go through the camps and find out who that person is. And when you find them, I want you to take them and everything that's attached to them and do this. That was harsh. But that was an adverse spirit working in them. Those that would fall out of line with what Yahweh was commanding. So then again, the fruit of the spirit or the work of the flesh. How will you know? This is what people are. That we in these last days, narcissists and everything, right? And not and I won't just name them because their behavior pattern isn't the only one. They call them cluster B. It's narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. Borderline and histrionic personality disorders are common among females, among women, or I'll say females. And antisocial and antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder is more common among men, but they all have a core. They all have a core. It's the same core, but it's expressed a little bit different in male and female. So sometimes people may be, saying like say if it's a woman and they're like, oh, she a narcissist. If you look more deeply into like the behavior, you'll see that it's more histrionic or it's more borderline. Um, but those are some clinical terms that's used in psychology. But when it comes down to it, as far as this book is concerned, that's the work of the flesh, right? And people be want to know, well, what are the signs? What do you see? Like how didn't I see that, or I ignored it, or or maybe I didn't ignore it, but then they came back and was asking for another chance, or whatever, and then I did that, and then they turned around and did the same things again. That's the work of the flesh. We'll see what that is. So then you know that, and then you have to know the fruit of the spirit in order to discern. How can you discern something that you don't know what you discerning, right? um we can know like something feels off, but sometimes something don't feel off. It seems familiar because you probably grew up with it. It could have been a parent, it could have been a grandparent, it could have been your siblings, your family members. And so that was a familiar behavior, but it was a behavior that was not in alignment with the Holy Spirit. So you got to discern it, right? um So if you be led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. The law points out sin. Now the works of the flesh are manifest. In this day and age of manifestation, right? It means to make plain. Now the works of the flesh are these, are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, reveling, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have told you also in times past, that they which do such things, because what you do, you practice what you do, they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. And the kingdom of Yahweh is on earth. Like, that's the reason why things are happening the way that they're happening now. If there was a war in heaven and on earth as it is in heaven, guess what? If there was a war in heaven, there's going to be a war on earth. They drove out the evil in heaven, you drive out the evil on earth. In the kingdom of heaven on earth. Now, so that's the work of the flesh, the fruit of the spirit. So being in the image and likeness of Elohim, this is his characteristics, his attributes. And if we're made in his image and after his likeness, these things need to be working in us as well. These divine attributes. How do we know that they're working, that we're in his likeness and image? This is how we know, because this is now the fruit. Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, which is endurance, because you gotta endure this mess. You when you I'm telling you, this walk is not for the faint of heart. Paul even talked about running your race. And I've never done, those triampathons or whatever, those marathons and stuff like that. But I do know, but I'm a licensed massage therapist, so I've had to work at some of those, you know, things where we have to do the massages and everything for them. And we know what the muscles do when you have muscle fatigues and your muscles give out, and you have to go into another, like, overdrive in your brain, in your mind, to have your body continue to go when you end up where your muscles just fail. Like, your mind got to kick in and move your body, right? So long suffering is endurance. Like, I could walk for 70 minutes, before everything starts swelling up. But long suffering, which is endurance, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Temperance is self-control. Against such there is no law. There is no law against these fruits of the spirit, because of the 9 divine attributes that are working in you. So when we're made in his image and likeness, like our souls are really in his image and likeness, these are the fruits that manifest. Now, that does not mean that we don't protect ourselves or we don't defend ourselves or anything like that. Like, let somebody put their hands on me. What you think I'm gonna do? I am not the turn your other cheek person. I- I'm not. I'm gonna move around. I'm going to keep myself away from stuff like that. That means that you have to find me and come to me in order for that to even happen. And if that does happen, then it's like, but it's not gonna happen. Right. But But this is how you know. It's saying they, which are the Messiahs, have impaled the flesh with the affections and lust. Like, we've overcome those things. Like, it's not appealing. It's not appealing. It's not attractive. It's not, and do we have trials and tribulations? Do we have tests to see, hey, there's this life test? Let's see if the Holy Spirit working in you. Let's see if these 9 divine attributes are working. Because life will test us at every turn, right? And so then we overcome, or right, or we have to do it all over again. I'm not saying do it all over again, like, like, oh, in the next life, like, do all that. So the scripture lesson, especially since we're talking about these, I mean, war in heaven and they cast down onto the earth and all of that type of stuff, right? With our scripture lesson, that is exactly what we went into with that scripture lesson. And the word was made flesh. So this topic was about, and this is the first. This is the first of this series. I don't know exactly how long this series is gonna, you know, go out. But the word was made flesh. It's about tarot and astrology, right? Tarot and astrology in the scriptures. So in the book of Jasher, chapter 8, it started with Abram's birth. He was Abram before he became Abraham. Yahweh renamed him, all right, because he said he would be the father of many nations. And he told him, he said, if you could count the stars of heaven and the sands of the sea, then you'll be able to count your children. Basically, you can't. You can't count the sands. You cannot count the stars. There's way too many to number, you know. So, but the thing is, what Yahweh said to Abram or Abraham, when you read it out of the book of in Genesis, just in the book of Jasher, chapter 8, when Abram was born, you see where the wise men were what we call now astrologers. Well, I almost can't even say that these days, because I'm in this space. I'm in the astrology space, and I don't make a lot of noise now as of yet, because I make moves when Yahweh tell me to. So he had me sitting back in observation mode pretty much. But I've been studying astrology since I was, I'll put it this way. The first astrology book that I've ever read, and it was Linda Goodman. I still have those books with me now today. I didn't buy them. They actually was a part of my mother had a friend who she was moving, and she had a whole lot of books, and she gave my mother a lot of the books. So all these books, boxes of books was at the house, and we had this big bookshelf that was on the wall with a fireplace and everything. And so I was putting the books on the shelf, and I saw there's a lot of, astrology books and metaphysical books, and my eyes was just like, you know, I don't know, it was something about them that I was just like, ooh, like I could hear angels singing or something. And I was 15. I was 15. That was 34 years ago. So my first now that wasn't my first contact with astrology. Um I remember being The first time I saw my birth certificate, and I'm going somewhere with this. First time I saw my birth certificate, I was probably 5 years old. I was either 4 or 5 years old, and I was just looking at this piece of paper like it was gold. That's how I felt. I'm about 4 or 5 years old. I see this piece of paper that got my name and everything on it, and my mother and my father's name and my birth time and where I was born and all of that. Apparently, I could read at that time because I read it. I saw it. You know? So I'm 4 or 5. I know how to read. Um, and I'm looking at it, and I just stared at it. It's just like, "This is me. This is information about me." We learn stuff like that in kindergarten and everything, like, all about me and whatever. My first introduction with all about me was looking at my own birth certificate as a 4 or 5-year-old, and I remembered the time I was born. I never forgot it. It just stayed with me. Like, this was my time. I felt like it was a very important piece of information, and I always knew it. I saw it, I never forgot it. Time, birth location, hospital, like everything. I remembered it. Why would I need to remember that information? I didn't know at that time. I'm 4 or 5 years old. Well, apparently that was part of my purpose. Part of it. Not all of it, but part of it. I was always interested in astrology. Like, before I actually got the books, and people will be saying what they signs is, and then, there was a song, I forgot, I don't know it. I never knew the name of that song. But anyway, the people, and my father had albums, and you see the albums, and the artwork was a lot of like zodiac signs and all of that type of stuff. And all of this stuff intrigued me. It was doing something to my mind, my imagination, like all of this stuff, right? The imagery and everything. Um, I understand why that is now because I understand myself and my own astrological makeup. So, um, but when I finally started to no, like I'll say even before that, I always wanted to know how did this, when people say, "Hey, I'm an Aquarius and I'm a I'm a Leo or I'm a, whatever." Like, my question was within myself, how does that affect people's behavior? That was my question. How does this play into the behavior of people? As I always wanted to know. So then, when I was 15 and got a hold of the Linda Goodman series of books, and that now people can't even sit down and read a good 120-page book, let alone 700-page books, because her books was like 600-700 pages, and I was reading them at 15 years old. And that's what I did. There wasn't anything I shared with anybody. I didn't think it was good or bad. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was just it's I'm not, and when I'm saying that I didn't think it was good or bad, it was no judgment in it. I just wanted to learn, right? And then it wasn't until later on down the line, because the church that we attended wasn't like that at all, to be honest. Um, but it was kind of the outside stuff that, other people's things and religion or whatever the case may be, that was oh, this is of the devil, and this is bad, and that's witchcraft, and that's sorcery, and that's I mean, I ain't never really hear the word sorcery, but just all of that type of stuff, right? That's not a god, and oh, you into the astrology or your yoga, and that's not a god, that's the devil, and just all of that. And I would be like, hmm? Like, what? I saw the psychology in it. Because as I would study it and I would observe people, now some things I would see that was seemed like it was a little, like, mm, even myself, according to my birthday. And then when I learned even more about, like the your rising signs and all of that, that was getting a little deeper. It's like, oh, so that's the reason why, okay, I'm an Aries, but I'm reading everything about it, and it's like, this don't feel like me at all. You know? Then you get into the rising signs thing. It's like, okay, so this is the reason why. So it was certain things that I would see like, yep, this is definitely it. Then it would be certain things with still. I'm like, but this don't. Then I learned about Vedic, sidereal. Then the different kinds of sidereal and Vedic. And then came across not too long ago. Well, no, I can't. Well, let's say maybe it was about 10 years ago. Um, a black astrologer, and I bought two of her books. She had some books for sale. It was two books that she wrote, and she was at this vendor fair selling her books. And I was like, gotta have those. And it was interesting because what I saw, I'm like, this is different. And um that was interesting. And then also came across really the calculations of the heavens as is, and started seeing what Yahweh said, that the sun and the moon and the stars, he placed them in the heavens on the fourth day to keep days and times and seasons and years. So now it's everything that I've learned over the years. And now Yahweh is saying, this is how you really use this. Who would be the better one to say how you really use it than the one that made it? Right? Like the manufacturer, you know. Um because those are the things that happen in the astrology realm, and all of that, like, oh, this is this system, and this is that system, and this is this was from this study, and this one from the Babylonian back in the such and such days, and the blah 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 blah. Well, I know how to go directly to the source. Like, forget all that. Directly to the source, Heavenly Father Yahweh. So my question is, right? And I asked my questions. He said, this is how you use it. He placed the sun and the moon and the stars in the heavens to keep days and times and seasons and years. That is of no private interpretation. It's it's right there in the Canaanized version of the Bible. It's not even one you got to dig for. And then in the Canaanized version of the Bible, it mentions two other books, the book of Jasher and the book of Enoch. And in both of those books, chapter 8, we just read, wise men who are astrologers, it said, that knew the times. What does that mean? It means that they knew how to read the heavens. They didn't have watches, they didn't have sundials at that time. They knew how to look at the heavens to discern what time it was, what seasons it was, when it was a time to plant, when it was a time to pluck up, when it was a time to do the things that needed to be done. The heavens are a map. That's how they navigated the seas. That's how they We have GPS navigation. Where do you think they're getting the signals from? They have I have an app on my phone right now that can show you every constellation, but not only that, you see all of the devices that man has put up in the heavens, those satellites, and those satellites are up there beaming down on the towers to where we get this on our phone and we navigate. We're navigating through our phone. But where is it getting the directions from? From the satellites that's in the heavens. So the heavens are is a map. How do you navigate the seas? The heavens are a map. It has north, east, south, west. It's there. There are many star constellations, but there's 12 that's on the ecliptic or the orbit that the sun and the moon and the planets orbit around, and they hit each 12 of the constellations. Now, they're saying, "Oh, it's a 13th sign," but that's really one sign. It's not 13, it's one, because it goes according to the scriptures that said that, when the serpent did what the serpent did, and then he said that Yahweh said that I will put enmity or hatred or conflict between your seed and the woman's seed, and the woman's seed shall crush your head, and you shall bruise his heel. This constellation, I didn't put it on here. I'm gonna get into this, and I'll talk about the constellations next week. It's a constellation of Ophiuchus. It's the scorpion. Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer. It's the scorpion and Ophiuchus bearing the serpent. His foot is on the scorpion's head. The scorpion's tail is at his heel, and that is in the Bible. When the children of Israel were out there in the wilderness in Egypt, I mean not in Egypt, when they came up out of Egypt, and they were going through the wilderness, and they was being bitten everything by the fiery serpents and scorpions, the way that they were healed, Yahweh told them to take up it's a rod, this staff, and the serpent was on it, and he would have that serpent up, and if they looked at it, they would be healed from their venomous bites. That is the sign or the symbolism for the medical system, right? You see that rod or that staff, the catus, and it has the serpent around it. That's in the Bible. That's where they got it from. That's the symbolism of it. And that man bearing the serpent, stepping on a scorpion's heel, that's really one whole sign, but with two parts. When it goes through Scorpio, that's like the bite. When it goes through Ophiuchus, that's the healing. So that's the reason why they say, like, the transformative nature of Scorpio. There's the bite or the wound or whatever, and then the healing that comes after. That's what that means. So the story of the scriptures is in the heavenly bodies, because Yahweh knew, and all in his intelligence, that mankind would mess with this Bible, would temper with the stories, would take out stuff, would hide stuff, would do all of that. Well, but the stories is in the heavens. They they trying to do something up there, but they can't, because they can't get over or past the firmament. So Abram, when he was born, and the astrologers, the wise men who knew the times, were astrologers. Jasher chapter 8, we just read it. They said, hey, this night, this child that was born with this configuration that we just saw take place in the heavens, he's going to rule the earth. He's going to kill all the kings, everything. And he is going to inherit the earth. But the kings knew that the wise men who knew how to read, tell time by the heavens, that is a time clock. It's a clock. It is a universal clock that all clocks that have ever been made was patterned after. Like when we tell time, there was the sundial. What was the sundial? That's when everybody didn't have clocks in their houses. There would be a bell in the town square or something to let them know, the bell would ring at 12, at 3, at 6, at 9, and at 12 again. Whether that was 12 noon or 12 midnight. 3 a.m., 3 p.m. 6 a.m., 6 p.m. 9 a.m., 9 p.m. The sundial would be in the middle of the town square. And as whether you say the earth is spinning, whether it's flat or round, right? Or a sphere, that part, or whether the sun is moving. It's all moving. That's the thing about it. All of it is moving. It's all moving. It's all spiraling up. It's not spiraling down, it's spiraling up. So as it moves, we see this movement, right? The sun rises in the east, sets in the west for as long as we've been around. And so it'll cast shadows on that dial, the sundial. And that's how they knew what time it was, looking at that, and plus the bell that was in the town square. Eventually, that invention turned into the analog clock. Well, now you got what? 12, not 13, 12 numbers on the clock. And you got the hour hand and the minute hand and the second hand. So the hour hand would be like the sun. The minute hand would be like the moon. Right? Then you got the second hand that could go around, but even without the second hand, you still had the sun and the moon, or the hour hand and the minute hand. It was made after the heavenly bodies, because what Yahweh said about time and what it would do. Keep days and times and seasons and years. How do farmers plant crops for people to eat? Food that we go buy at the store if it's not made in a lab somewhere. They have to know what seasons it is. They have to know when the moon is a new moon. We just had a new moon July 5th at 5:57, 5:56, 5:57 p.m. Central Standard Time. So Eastern now was 6, almost 7 o'clock. New moon in Gemini. That means something. If you get an armor's, this is a farmer's almanac. If you buy a farmer's almanac, I've been buying these for years now. And it's a little magazine, little stuff in here, but for the most part, a farmer's almanac, so that it's a bunch of when to plant crops, certain crops, according to what we call the zodiac. The only trouble that I see with this is that it does not include Ophiuchus, which is why, as is stated in the book of Enoch, that I do have on my channel, the book of Enoch gives a more detailed account of the calendar that Yahweh sent the angel Uriel to Enoch to give him a calendar, and how the heavenly bodies move and all of this type of stuff, right? In the book of Enoch. And he told him to write it in a book so that he can give it to his sons so that they pass this knowledge down. How do we learn? What are we going to school for if we're not reading books? And the books that's in there is not even all the right books. So we got all of this knowledge without the power, which the power is the ability. And then the stuff that is being done, it's like destroying stuff. And it's like, why? Because we've been out of alignment. So, you have them, it's like, oh, well, the earth is not doing this. And so we have to do, you're not using the full heavenly bodies correctly. It's not allotting for Ophiuchus. It say everything is in here besides Ophiuchus. So then, like right now, it's Cancer season. It is not. We just had a new moon in Gemini. A new moon, which is talked about in the Bible, that the new moon begins the month. The new moon is the beginning of each month. And the new moon that just took place was in Gemini. That's when the sun and the moon comes in conjunction with one another. And conjunction means degree. Like if the sun was in the 22nd degree of Gemini, then that means that the moon hit the 22nd degree of Gemini as well. It's new moon, day 1 of the month. So how is it Cancer season when we just had a new moon in Gemini? Because it's not. But Western astrology says that it is. And this is the reason why people say it. Well, first of all, they have to give a disclaimer. All this is for entertainment purposes only. What does the word entertainment mean? It means to distract or divert attention. What are you diverting attention away from? And what are you diverting it to? Are you diverting it away from the truth to a lie? Because it's Gemini season, not Cancer season. But I was under the same. I just learned because I want to get to the bottom of I search for truth. What is the truth of it? I have an app on my, first of all, I was about to buy a very expensive telescope. And Yahweh was like, I got you. Download these 2 apps. I could point it to the heavens and I see the heavens as it is, like in real time. And he said, where's the sun and the moon? Wait a minute. Now what season they saying it is? But they saying it. He said, that's why they say it's a pseudoscience, because it's just teaching false information. It's teaching false information. And we have to allot for Ophiuchus. That is very important. So people it's a lot. It's a lot that I have a job to do, which is to speak the truth and put this information on my channel, and it will be out there, because that's what we talk about purpose. That's what I got to do, right? So tarot. What is tarot? Well, tarot was also something that was of Hebrew culture, that was, a culture appropriation that happened, and folks took it and ran with it and made it what it is, that what we have today. But the major arcana, this right here, right? They call this is a major arcana from the tarot deck. You have the major arcana, you have the minor, and you have court cards. Your court cards are, your page, king, queen, knight. Um, your minor, those are, it's kind of like everyday type action type of things or whatever, that's like this is what's coming to me to say. It's like the daily task or practices or whatever that's leading up to, right? And then you have this right here. And these are like in tarot, it's like divine intervention. Well, why do they call this the major arcana, like the divine intervention? Well, because it was taken from the 22 pictorial illustrations of the Bible that the children of Israel, they began to, hold on. Let me, okay, parchments. I'm about to, because Paul, let's see, parchment. Okay. So Paul had wrote a letter to Timothy, right? It's two letters, First Timothy, Second Timothy. Those are letters that he wrote to Timothy, right? It's not scripture, it's not law, it was letters that he wrote. Timothy 1, Timothy 2, it's a letter. In it, in Second Timothy 4 and 13. I'm gonna pick this up for some context. Uh oh, da, 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 da. Okay. Ooh, shoot. Okay, I'm gonna have to read this whole chapter just about. All right, Second Timothy, fourth chapter. I charge you therefore before Yahweh. Matter of fact, let me read it from the Holy Name Bible. Second Timothy, fourth chapter. Okay. I charge you therefore before Yahweh and the Savior, Yahshua the Messiah, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. But watch you in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of your ministry. For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. He's talking about his death. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. See, purpose, right? Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which Yahshua, who is the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. Do your diligence to come shortly unto me. For Damas has forsaken me, having loved this present age, and is departed into Thessalonica. Uh, Crescens to Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Take Mark and bring him with you, for he is very useful to me for the ministry. And Tychicus have I sent to Ephesus. Now, this is what I was getting to. The cloak that I left at Troas with Carpus, when you come, bring it with you, and the books, especially the parchments. Then he goes on about it here. Alexander the carpenter did me much evil. Yahweh reward him according to his works. Be you wary of him also, for he has greatly withstood our words. And he giving him warning about people who showing that works of the flesh and fruits of the spirit, right? He like, this person did him much evil. He said, be weary of him also. He like, listen, uh, watch out, because that one right there. All right. He said, at my first defense, no man stood with me, but all men forsook me. I pray that it may not be laid to their charge. Notwithstanding, Yahweh stood with me and strengthened me, that by me the preaching might be fully known, and that all the nations might hear. And I was delivered out of the mouth of the lion. And Yahweh shall deliver me from every evil work, and will preserve me unto his heavenly kingdom, to whom be glory forever and ever. Salute Priscilla and Aquila and the household of Onesiphorus. Onesiphorus. I hope I pronounced that right. Um. Okay. So the books, especially the parchments. Well, what was the parchments? This. This was the parchments. These were the parchments. When they were scattered, right? They were scattered. Every time that they were taken into captivity and all of that type of stuff, a lot of times they booked their history, and their books were burned, and everything, right? They just ravaged everything and pillaged everything. That's their history, right? Yahweh have writing stuff and writing books and all of that. They would burn a lot of their libraries down. Some stuff they would take. Again, books in the Vatican right now. All right. See if you could go up in that library in the Vatican and take them. I bet you can't. I bet you won't even get them, because they know the information that's in there, holding the truth and unrighteousness. So, but look, like Yahweh just can't reveal it to whomever he will to reveal it to. He always has. He did it to Enoch. He did it to Moses. He did it to a bunch of them. Yahweh is spirit. We can't contain him, put him in a box. He choose whoever gonna listen. He like, "Oh, you heard that? You heard me? All right, cool." Intuition, to pay attention to that which is within. Abraham, Abram, same thing happened to him. That's why he was a father of many nations, because not only did Abram hear Yahweh, he first of all, he was like, I want to know who made the sun and the moon and the stars and the you see, Terah, Abraham's father, he first of all, he was an idol. Not only was he's an idol worshiper, he was an idol maker. He actually made the idols. He made the idols. And then he sold them. And because he was making them and selling them, and people was burning incense and praying and leaving food out to him and all of that, he was like, okay, well, shoot, I gotta do what they doing. Cause this what they do. It's basically he had to be a product of the product. We talk about that all the time in like marketing and everything. You got to be a product of the product. How are people going to believe? How did it work for you? Hey, I took this weight loss tea and I drank it for 3 days and the weight just fell off. What? Let me get 50 of them. That's being a product of the product. You got to show some proof. So he's making them. And then the people doing what they doing. And it was like, oh my gosh, I I bought his figurine, and when I put it in my house and I did 2 Hail Marys, next thing you know, I got a check in the mail. He like, well, shoot, let me so they can keep buying my product. That's all he did. And Abraham was looking like now the only reason why Abram was able to challenge his father about that was because Abram was taught by Noah. Noah had just was on the other side of the flood, saved through it all with his family. He was talking to anybody within 6 feet of him. They was gonna tell him all about Yahweh. Listen, he like, I saw with my own eyeballs. I don't have nothing else to tell you but this. He taught Yahweh day and night. He woke up, Yahweh Elohim. He went to sleep, Yahweh Elohim. So in Deuteronomy, when Yahweh said, teach these things diligently unto your children, when you rise up, when you go to sleep, when you walk about the wayside, when you're sitting in your house, that's what Noah did. And Abram was right there learning. So he was able to see the contrast with this what my father doing. But this is what and then he out there in nature and he looking at he discerning the sky and the stars and the because his who was there with his father when Abram was born? It said the conjurers were there. What's a conjurer? Let's get out our handy dandy. I mean, I know what it is, but conjurer, according to the American Dictionary of the English Language, 1828, conjurer, one who practices conjuration, one who pretends to one who pretends to the secret art of performing things supernatural or extraordinary by the aid of superior powers, an impostor who pretends by unknown means to discover stolen goods, hence ironically a man of shrewd shrewd conjecture, a man of sagacity or sagacity. So this is what I do. There's certain words that stick out, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna look up that word. Um, because he said that the sages were there. Uh, oh, what? Okay, Yahweh, hold on. Joshua, just wait. Just don't let me lose the thought. But mm, 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 mm. Okay, wait. Quickness or acuteness of scent applied to animals. Sagacity. Quickness or acuteness of discernment or penetration, readiness of apprehension, the faculty of readily discerning and distinguishing ideas and separating from truth of falsehood. Sagacity finds out the intermediate ideas to discover what connection there is in each link of the chain. So that would be the sage, right? The sages. Okay, so sage, of course, of which is a plant that you put it in your. I want some dressing now. Some dressing. Wise, having nice discernment and powers of judging, prudent, grave, as a sage counselor, wise, judicious, proceeding from wisdom, well judged, well adapted to the purpose, as sage counsel, a wise man, a man of gravity and wisdom, particularly a man not vulnerable but venerable for years, and known as a man of sound judgment and prudence, a grave philosopher. At his birth, a star proclaims his come and guides the Eastern sages. So they were there with Terah that night when Abraham was born. So the conjurers, the sages, the wise men. Mind you, Pharaoh had Janus and Jambres, which, like, say, when Moses did his thing, casting down the his rod, you know, and then it turned into a serpent, and then Janus and Jambres did the same exact thing. They was like, we could do that too. They cast theirs down. The difference was Moses's rod swallowed up theirs, always trumped it. Adversary said that he would be like the Most High. You have to remember that he sat on the side, right? He was right there with Yahweh. And he said, I will exalt myself above the throne. I will be like the Most High. So he know what's going on. That story repeated because Joshua chose out the 12, and he knew who everybody was, even the one who was going to betray him. He chose him out. He chose him. That was part of the purpose, though. He had to betray him. He had to hand him over to the authorities so that he could die the death for the spirit to be released out of his body and poured out upon all mankind. Right? So um he was there, right? The council. He was part of the council. Um Lucifer, same thing. Same thing. The story repeats itself. It repeats. So with that, they would, like we were saying, the when they would be going into captivity and all their books burned and all of this type of stuff, they would write, not write. They basically had that there's esoteric and exoteric, right? Esoteric is hidden knowledge. So in these images, somebody just see these images. It's like it's a Hebrew letter. It says he. There's a 5 on it with an E. Is a ram with a ram's head and some cloud with these 2 pillars on it. It say breath and then it say Psalms, right? But these images have meaning. And only those who knew the true meaning of these images were the children of Israel who Yahweh gave the knowledge to. Even in tarot, with the tarot readers, let's go here. Let's real quick. All right. The second card is the second card in the tarot deck, not the tarot deck, but the major arcana is the high, it's the, now see what they and they did this thing differently, but the way that the cards are in the scriptures. Anyway, the second card, as you can see, because there's a Roman numeral 1, a Roman numeral 2, is the high priestess. And you see this pillar here and here. It's this curtain here with like some pomegranates on it. She has this crown. This means something that's on her head. And if you know astrology, you put that together. This is like the sign of Neptune right there, right? Then you have that, like that ball, I'm looking into my crystal ball and I can see all of that. Anyway, but this is in that shape of that Neptune imagery. There's a cross on her neck, of course. She's in this blue here. That means something. You have the moon at the feet. That means something. You can't really see it all too well, but she has a book in her hand. This book that's sitting in her hand on her lap. When you really look at that card, there's a word on there, and it says, it's spelled Torah. Torah. That's the law book that was given to Moses. Why would the tarot cards have this high priestess with the book in her hand, and it's the Torah? It's written right there on the card. And a whole bunch of other stuff. What does this card represent, really? You got Aleph, you got the man, you got Beth, the woman. Because what? Because you got Adam and Eve. You got the man and the woman. Right? Beth, you got Aleph, that's the first Hebrew alphabet. You got Beth, the second Hebrew alphabet. It has meaning. You see where she has this moon on her, it's like a moon here on her head with the crown. Is that I can't really see if that's a star or not. With the crown here, and it says mouth. Psalms and the psalm. So the major arcana in a tarot deck is really Psalms 119, the 119th division. And each Hebrew alphabet has a meaning, and it means something esoterically because, again, when they would get taken into captivity, there was a esoteric message that was for them. Wasn't for everybody. It was for them. And these just little 22 cards, they could take it and have them in a little inconspicuous way, you know. But then, of course, it kind of got out. And that's the reason why we have the tarot card system and decks and stuff anyway now, because you have these different nations that they would come under captivity to, and they would, again, culture appropriation, take what was in their culture, their divination, their divination tools, the Hebrew nation's divination tools, and would see and feel the power of it, take it for themselves, and then they made their stuff with it. And that is how the tarot was born. Do the research. I dug deep. I always ask Yahweh, take me to the original source. I'm asking the original source to take me to the original source. So what you think the original source gonna do? He said, asking you shall receive, seeking you shall find, knocking it shall be open to you. For whosoever asks receives, whosoever seeks finds, whosoever knock shall be, it shall be open. What you asking for? Lottery numbers? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need a new job. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that if you need some money, but I'm I'm just saying, he give you what you ask for. I asked for the truth. I think that's a good thing. What happened with Solomon? He was up to be king. It was his time. He's like, okay, get what you want. He's like, this is a great thing. Look, he was like, this is a lot. And I'm young. Like, I don't know what to do. Um, I need wisdom to judge your people in righteousness. And Yahweh said, the re first of all, the reason why he gave Solomon what he gave Solomon was because Yahweh asked him for an attribute of his. Wisdom is one of the 9 divine attributes. So that pleased him because, oh, I said, I made man in my image and after my likeness. My image and my likeness is wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, love, beauty, justice, foundation, power, and strength. And you ask me for wisdom. Wisdom correlates with, is it the nervous system or is it the reproductive system? It's one of the bodily systems. Which volume is this? Oh shoot, it's not in this one. Okay, I'm gonna have to get that next week. But I want to say that it's the nervous system, and that sends their messages throughout the entire body. So he asked for wisdom, one of Yahweh's attributes. It's like, yes. That's the reason why he said, because you didn't ask me for the latest Bentley and, you know, a man and a woman and like all this temporal stuff. You asked me for my attribute. that, and if you read, there's another book that to read. Solomon wrote Ecclesiastics, but he also wrote I call it the Book of Wisdom, but it's called the Book of Solomon. Like Ecclesiastes Solomon wrote, but he also wrote the book. It's called the Book of Solomon. It's in that playlist as well. Listen to it. Talk about wisdom and what wisdom will do. And when you get the details of how wisdom roll and you roll with wisdom, it's like no wonder why Solomon, I don't listen. The book said that Solomon, King Solomon, was the wealthiest man ever. Like said what wasn't none like him that had that much wealth. I know they, and I'm not going to even say the name, but it's another one out there that they talking about. Oh, he was the wealthiest man. I'm like, that's a lie. Solomon. Now he lost it all because he did something that Yahweh said. He was like, Solomon, don't do this. He like, you got it in you to do it because your daddy did it. But as long as you stay straight, you'll be good. The minute you do this right here, it's over. And that's what happened. But he still was the wealthiest man ever, according to what Yahweh said in the scriptures. And I ask me who I believe and trust in. I believe and trust in Yahweh's truth. Those who worship Yahweh must worship him in spirit and in truth. So Psalm 19 9 and 16. I don't know if, well, we're not going to read this whole thing today, but just for you to know um where, like where it came from. This is how it the tarot card system came to be. And some of it they I noticed a change in one of them, but this is so Aleph, this would be, that's the magician card. That's when you have all of the, you know, um the magician. It has all of the elements, right? The wand in his hand, the wand, the pentacle, the cup, and where's the sword? Oh, the sword. The sword is right there. The four elements. Everything that's needed to create. Because what? Aleph, Adam. I'm gonna just read that one. I'm not gonna even read the. No, I'm gonna read both of those since I mentioned the high priestess first, Solomon, and then we're gonna close out and continue this with the tarot and astrology next week. You know, to use it rightly instead of being taken off on the deep end somewhere. And Yahweh is like, that's not he like, that's not how you use that. That's not how you use that. Use it like this, right? Okay, Aleph. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of Yahweh. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. They also do no iniquity, they walk in his ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy statutes. Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all thy commandments. I will praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. I will keep thy statutes, or forsake me not utterly. So, and I wrote this. I had to write this down. So, what happened there? Like, why was that? Why was that? Why was that? Why was that said? What is the meaning when we talk about meanings and everything, right? So, the word being made flesh, and I'm sourcing this from the Elohim book. Again, that is one of our resources that'll be shared at the end. So these first 8 verses, Psalm 119 and 1 through 8, describe the man Adam in his uh hermaphroditic state, or while the woman was still in him. Genesis 1:27, and Genesis 5:1 and 2. Adam in this state was in the garden and was naked and was not ashamed. Verse 6. He kept the commandments of Elohim. He did not touch the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or the fruit thereof while the woman was in him. This is the universal symbol of man, for all man, for all men were in Adam and proceeded from him. Adam was Elohim in bodily form, or Yahshua the Messiah, and he knew that the drawing out of the woman in the garden would bring about her deception by Lucifer the serpent, and ultimate transgression, resulting in his own sacrificial death for his bride. Therefore, he knew he would be forsaken, but not utterly. That's verse 8. Adam with Adam with woman in him was Elohim, Yahshua in a body. Adam, Elohim, and Yahshua are both masculine and feminine, hence the plural terms. So that answered your question in the beginning, right? Elohim is a name describing the threefold supernal nature, not the gods as erroneously taught. The letter Aleph is made up of 4 yods, just as mankind is made up of 4 races. The 4 yods, YODS, you see that in astrology as well. It's a it's a it's a configuration, and one of my sons has that configuration in his birth chart. Yep, he sure does. Um, so the four yods point to the 4 corners of the earth, just as mankind has been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. And then also with Abraham, right? That configuration that it made when they, when they were there and they were leaving the house about to go home and looked up in the heavens and saw the stars shoot to the 4 corners. That was that yod. That's a configuration. Astrology, tarot, right here in the scriptures. Where else was it gonna come from? Yahweh Elohim created it all. And so that's the one that has to give us the true and truth, right? Interpretation of what it is, what it means. you know, it all goes back to him and his story. So the the second card is the high priestess, right? And we went over that and it had the Torah in her hand and everything, right? So Beth, mouth, Psalms 19 through 16. So we're gonna read that one and then the meaning of that one according to the scriptures. Beth, wherewith shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. With my whole heart have I sought thee, Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. Blessed art thou, O Yahweh. Teach me thy statutes. With my lips have I declared all the judgments of thy mouth. I have rejoiced in the way of thy testimonies as much as in all riches. I will meditate on thy precepts and have respect unto thy ways. I will delight myself in thy statutes. I will not forget thy word. That's why she got the Bible. That's why she has the high priest. Now, I'm not even talking about this. I mean, I am talking about it, but on here with this picture is her, and you see, and it says mouth right here, right? The high priestess card, she has the Torah in her hand. She has a Torah in her hand. Teach me thy ways and thy precepts, and I will have, because where you gonna get it from? Teach me that. Okay, here's the book. It's in there. There it is. It's right there. Right? So, meaning Beth in Hebrew means house, and woman was the house. A wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her own hands. Right? Like many have heard that. A wise woman build her house, but the foolish tear it down with her own hands. You know, why do they want the woman out the home? And look, ain't nothing wrong with bringing in some more income at all. These days, yes, two people, either one person gonna make a whole lot of money, or two people got to bring it in. But I have seen with my own eyeballs, get that woman out the house and away from the children and see what happens. Some people could say, well, shoot, the children with the woman and they crazy. Somebody left the house and left the children unattended because somebody got to teach. It this listen, I ain't write it. Not me. Okay? Beth in Hebrew means house. And woman was the house. Don't the woman house the babies? Man got the seed. It's in him. But then he placed the seed in the woman's womb, and the baby grow in the woman's house, which is her body. If the woman crazy, maybe she was crazy before you put the seed in there. Why you put your seed in a crazy woman's house? Shouldn't have did that. Now you point the finger at her. Was she what if she was crazy before, then you should have exited stage left as soon as you saw the crazy. If she wasn't crazy before, but then she crazy after, you need to ask yourself some questions. How did she get there? She the house. So Beth in Hebrew means house, and woman was the house in which we all have dwelled. The hieroglyphic mouth, let's go back to what the original card had. Mouth. The original parchment, as Paul called it. He said, make sure you bring the parchments. These were the parchments. This right here. These were the parchments. He said the books, and in particular, the parchments. So the hieroglyphic mouth comes as a result of the conversation with Satan in the garden. Verse 3. When the serpent came to the woman, she knew the law. Verse 11. And answered correctly when asked about the tree. Verse 13. In verse 12, the woman says, teach me thy statutes. This necessitated, according to Yahweh's purpose, the transgression of the woman. The transgression of the woman. Adam was not involved in the transgression. 1 Timothy 2:14. And the law or statutes, which in the law or statutes were added because of this one transgression. Galatians 3:19. So you see, the law. That's why she had the book in her hand, the Torah. That was the law book. That was the law. Adam was not in the transgression. He wasn't there. He wasn't. If he was there, Satan wouldn't have stood a chance. That's why what? He came to the woman. Adam was not there. That's why Joshua said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Because if she's left forsaken, here come the serpent. If she by herself, here come the serpent. And Adam all die. Adam and Eve supposed to be one, right? Leave a woman by herself, here come the serpent. So teach me thy statutes. That's why she had the law book in her hand here. And it says Torah on it. So, and there are many other cards through here where it shows like right here, the Wheel of Fortune card. Torah. They say Torah, but it's with an H. Torah. And then on the side, Elohim. E for eagle, L for lion, O for ox, him for the man. ELO, him. Elohim. And Hebrew is read from right to left. That's the reason why you have it on the left side and then the right. Like if you really want to read tarot correctly according to how Yahweh Elohim, which is the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of the new heaven and new earth, and all that exists, has it. There you go. Right? You see this snake, you see the cloud. We start off our session, but Yahweh is not a cloud. He merely chose a cloud to symbolize himself because a cloud has no particular or descriptive shape and form. The cloud. You got clouds here. You see the eagle, the lion, the ox, and the man all have wings on them, and they all have books in their hand. What are those books? The Torah. The eagle, Scorpio. The lion, Leo. The ox, Taurus. The man or him, Aquarius. They're all fixed signs. The four corners, the yod. These are each, they represent a season as well. In Scorpio season, that's autumn. In which in the Hebrew civil calendar is in the Hebrew civil calendar, that's the beginning of the year in the civil calendar. Then there's the beginning of the year in the sacred calendar, which is Abib, which corresponds with our April in the Gregorian calendar. Uh the lion, that's Leo. That's summer season, fixed summer season. Taurus, ox, that's fixed spring season. And then Aquarius, the man, him, that's fixed winter season. And you see this snake here, the serpent. Stop saying snake, it's serpent. Serpent. Serpent means to twist. The serpent and what? The devil down here at the bottom. And then you have this like, sphinx up here at the top. Um, but I wanted to point that out of Elohim being on this card. And then also you got the devil card there. The world card. Same here. E L O him. Elohim. With the woman, this is like the woman clothed in the sun there, or the end. So we talk about what? The end of the world, right? The woman clothed in the sun, or the woman redeemed. That is, wait. Okay. Here. This was the original. Well, you still see it, the eagle, the lion, the ox, the man, and you got the tabernacle. You got the tabernacle here with the outer court, the holy place, and the most holy place, the womb. Because woman, the womb. Um, okay, I'll read it. I wasn't about to read it at first, but is that Ta? Okay. Ta. Let my cry come near before thee, O Yahweh. Give me understanding according to thy word. Let my supplications come before thee. Deliver me according to thy word. My lips shall utter praise when thou hast taught me thy statutes. My tongue shall speak of thy word, for all thy commandments are righteousness. Let thine hand help me, for I have chosen thy precepts. I have longed for thy salvation, O Yahweh, and thy law is my delight. Let my soul live, and it shall praise thee, and let thy judgments help me. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek thy servant, for I do not forget thy commandments. That is the end, or what they call the world card, but it's tall, tall. And that is tall in Hebrew is the universal womb of Yahweh, where we all were before being made subject to vanity. For the creation was made subject to vanity, not willingly, by reason of him who have subjected the same in hope, because the creation itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of Yahweh. Romans 8:20 and 21. We now look for the promised Sabbath that we have never had. Verse 170. We have now learned our lesson and shall praise Yahweh eternally. We have now learned our lesson and have returned to the fold throughout eternity. Whatever your purpose is, what my purpose is. In astrology, the way I teach and the way I coach with my clients, I say your birth chart is just your map. It's like coming to this earth school to learn the lessons of Yahweh Elohim. And you have your own class schedule that you signed up for. You didn't even sign up for it, really. Like, it was assigned to you. I mean, think about it. Like, do we really go, like, in high school or whatever, certain things we, okay, well, I'm choosing this elective, or I'm a major in this and minor in this. But with that, there are prerequisites, and also classes that you have to take that you don't want to take. You like, why I gotta do this, right? Um, but we were born at a certain day, at a certain time, in a certain location, to a certain set of parents, in a certain family that lived in a certain place, and maybe from that place or another place. And then we go to certain schools and have certain teachers and friends and communities or whatever that all make up our unique experience here. And it can be found in your own birth chart. Nobody has your experiences that you can. I was just saying this yesterday. There are a lot of there are people that share my birthday. I mean, the day and year. I know that there are many people that was born on my birthday, like the same day, at the same hospital. At the same hospital. But they were not born to my parents. They may or may not have been born at the same time. Somebody somewhere might have been born at the same time, but they wasn't at the same location to the parents that I have and my grandparents. And you see what I'm saying? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are unique. Somebody can, and I've seen it many times. Somebody had my same birth chart. Degree is off a little bit, but but haven't had my same experiences. A lot of them are similar, but not the same. Some people with the same birth chart I have died um on a more positive end. Some of them are artists, musicians, um psychologists, teachers that like teach art or something, um chefs, all of that. And then on the other side, depending on, what they chose, some have some are disabled, like I said, died. Uh, so it's just you're saying all that to say your chart is unique to you because of your and just your experiences and everything. But what you signed up, well, not what you signed up for, what was purpose for you is there. Just like when they were leaving Tara's house and those astrologers, wise men said, the child that was born this night is gonna rule the world. He gonna kill all the kings, everything. He ruling the entire world. They read that in the heavens. That wasn't evil. That was what was now what somebody purposed to do, which that king, when they told him, like, hey, it was you was born this night, this is that and the other, so forth and so on, they purposed evil for him. That's why in the scriptures, when he said, I know the plans that I have for you, right? Um, but that wasn't the only time that happened. Everything that happened with Abram, when I read that was the same thing. We talk about patterns. That was the same thing that was patterned with when the children of Israel went down into Egypt. Then they killed the male, the Hebrew babies, the males, not the women, not the females, but the males. When the king, hey, as many of them. Let's go ahead and kill the males, lest they, a war break out and they form um alliances with our enemies. Repeat, that happened to Abraham, which was their forefather. A king trying to kill the son before the son was born in order to to get him off the throne. And it wasn't even in the way that they thought it was going to be. They was looking at it as far as them being, king on the throne and all of that. And Yahweh just ain't never operate that way. The way he move is still secret and silent, laying low. Joshua was right there. It was a death decree when Joshua was born. Joshua was right there doing his purpose, laying low, although he was well known. It was many instances where it was like in the fame of him, and they just couldn't get their hands on him because he carried out his purpose. He knew what it was. No distractions. He did not, no distraction, focused. And they was coming for him at every turn. And he would hand them their butts and gone on about his business, doing his father's business, like he said. So, what about us? Do you know exactly what that is for you? It's in your birth chart. You can know it so that you don't have to walk around here, like, I don't know what my purpose is and my purpose and there should I be, and then we think our purpose is tied to income. Mm-mm. Shoot, the people that Yahshua chose, they all came from different backgrounds and professions. Luke was a physician. Um, Two of them was fishermen. Uh, Judas, Peter was a thug. He was like the bodyguard. Um, uh, what's the one who Judas? He was he dealt with money and stuff. So that part. I mean, one was a the tax person, the tax preparer, accountant. He dealt with the taxes. He just chose them out from different places. And Joshua by trade was a carpenter. And that's the reason why, you know, they like, who is this unlearned man? He just a little blue collar worker. He got 12 people that he teaching. What he teaching them? Carpentry? How the carpenter teaching the physician? How is the carpenter teaching the tax preparer? Like, let's put this in real life today. How is the and he little Mary and Joseph's son over there lived in Nazareth? Does anything good come out of Nazareth? That was the hood. But he had a purpose. There was a purpose. So everybody has one. And it's all, all of it to the service of Yahweh Elohim. Um, King Solomon said it. What was the whole? He said, "Let us hear the conclusion of the matter," and we're gonna end on this note. Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes will end on this note. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. The whole conclusion. That's it. So we'll be back next week, continuing to dive into Psalms, the 119th division, and its correlation to the tarot card system, and then also astrology as well, and how it represents, how it's the Bible. And it represents those 12 patriarchs, the 12 sons, the 12 the 12 sons, the 12 tribes, the 12 apostles. These are our research helps that we use here. and the playlist can be found there and on my YouTube channel. And so we're going to end with the last two verses of Jude. Now unto him who is able to keep you falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise Elohim, our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah, our Sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both before all time and now and ever. Hallelujah. You all have a wonderful rest of your week. You know, Sunday is the beginning of the week. So you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay cool, be blessed, and see you all next week on Study of the Soul, a Metaphysical Journey. Peace.